Hello and welcome to this episode of Voorhees Tiger Vision with our head coach, Coach Cabral Huff. Coach, how you doing, man? How's it going?
I'm good, man. It's good to be back in Denmark in the office. I can tell you that.
For sure, for sure. It's been an adventure on the road. I'm sure. We can't wait to hear all about it and talk about the team and how everybody's doing. Been a while. We had to miss 1 week because of a game, and then 1 week based on my schedule. So we off our cadence a little bit, but
Right.
we'll be back in the building, man.
No doubt, no doubt. Glad to have everybody join us and hear a little bit about where we are right now.
For sure. Let's kick that off. Let's talk about the team. Of course, we kind of teased that there was a bit of a road trip there. A lot of road games on the calendar this year. Let's talk about how the team is doing and just give us an update on how the guys are kind of coming together.
Man, I really love this team, man. They work so hard and they bust their butts every day at practice and every day for one another to get better. So I really love how they're coming together. You know, I try to tell people if they would understand that this season is so different for us, especially. It's different for everybody now when you talk about COVID and everything that's going on, but it's so different for us because every team that we've played has been practicing or playing since October. And here we are. We didn't get on campus and get this team together to January 4th. So when we had practice today at 6 a.m., it was practice 28 for us. And if you really think about practice 28 is usually that preseason time before you even play a game, leading up to a scrimmage. You usually can get about 30 of them in before you even get to a game. So for us to even have gotten to this point of having these games and then playing that with only 28 practices, only bringing back 6 guys from a team last year, I'm not gonna say it's been a struggle because the guys have been so bought in. So I mean, you've seen us play live and how they bought into each other. But I do know we have been behind the 8 ball a little bit. But I won't use excuses. We've come up short. You know, I do think if we had some more time, we don't come up short in those games. But we have come up short, and that's something that we've got to fix. We've got to execute better down the stretch to get some of those W's that we didn't get.
For sure. I'm always interested in, especially with your group, and you have a mix of new players who are new to Voorhees altogether, everybody being new to you. I'm always interested in team chemistry and how those guys are coming on, especially during the times of adversity and when they have to battle back. It seems like they're doing a really good job of that, but wanted to check in on that as well.
I mean, it's been a really good job for our guys. We did have a team meeting to kind of make sure that we didn't want to have cliques, you know, the guys that were here last year versus guys that knew each other versus, you know, maybe freshmen hanging around. And we had a meeting about that, and we came to a conclusion that it wasn't going to happen with us. And I think that was really good.
Yeah.
We didn't want tough losses to make us get outside our character of who we are, of being, you know, family, of being, you know, having our brothers back. So we didn't want that to happen. I think that meeting that we had after one of our close losses, we didn't even practice that day. We kind of just came in as a group, and we talked about some stuff to make sure, even in a shortened season, even in the midst of everything, of why we got to stay together and why we can't have these cliques, because a lot of these guys will be coming back next year.
For sure. It's so important, as you see with a lot of teams this year, Duke and Kentucky, to name just 2 great programs that are struggling this year, to something you alluded to at the very beginning, the amount of practice time that you get. Coach, touch on this for us. How many practices do you feel like you've had where you actually had the full team together?
I would say half. So out of the 28, now granted, 28 practices means that includes shoot-arounds the day of the game. So,
oh wow, okay.
So like that should let you know, because
not even getting it, you know, getting after it like you would normally would.
And you're not trying to go 7 days straight, you know, just trying to make sure that these guys are getting it together. But having everybody, we've had some contact tracing. We've had some guys that couldn't get here for various reasons, with the pandemic going on right when we got here January 4th. So I would probably say 14 of those days. I mean, you got to think about, we played 7 games, and 3 of them we didn't have a full roster.
That's tough, unbelievably tough, and especially when you talk about how many of those games you're playing on the road.
Yeah.
So it's the amount of practice time you have by having, a later start than some of the other teams that you have to play, having the new guys, and not getting that summer with them, right? And then on top of that, you're playing all of these battle-tested teams on the road on top of that. But still, we've seen the guys have some fight. And really seems like we're starting to figure some things out. Can you talk about a little bit like what we're learning on the floor kind of through some of this?
We're learning how to win, man. When you get a new team together, like a lot of these close losses about learning how to win. Like I think a lot of people, we look at where this team has been in the past. And like I've always said, Coach Derek Mitchell did a great job. 2 years ago, 24-6, winning the conference, going to the tournament. Last year, 19-9. But you got to remember that 6 of the guys coming back, only one guy played or started significant time. Everybody else either came off the bench or kind of just played sparingly. So you're really talking about a brand new team that you're trying to put together January 4th. Not only that, I got the job late October, early November, and you're trying to put this team together at that particular time.
Right.
So with all that, we're learning how to win, man. Like even when you talk about the last game we played versus Denmark, it got a little closer than we wanted because we still had to learn how to win because we hadn't been in that position yet. Yep. And I tell people this, 4 of our losses are by a combined 13 points. And,
yep.
and I'm not saying like it was that way the whole game. I can go to Carolina with a minute 30 left versus Carolina University. We're up. Or, we're up with 3 minutes left versus Allen. So things like that where you're just trying to close out games that guys are still learning each other. Okay, who could close it out? What does somebody need the ball at? Just little things like that we're learning how to do. But I do think as we continue to go, as we continue to get to these games, we get better every time out. There's something we improve upon every time out.
I agree, Coach. I agree. And as you were talking about that, some of the close things, we're talking about a single possession in a lot of these games. Back to the Dalton State game even. Or losing a game at the buzzer off a double clutch shot, right? Like we're talking about a single possession between winning and losing a basketball game. So definitely seeing the guys kind of come along when it comes to a lot of that. One thing that people don't talk about much though is that not only do the players have to gel, right? Have to come together with limited amount of practice time. You guys are also doing that as a staff.
Yeah.
Let's touch on that a little bit about, how things are coming along with you guys working together as a staff as well.
I mean, obviously, you're talking about 2 guys that, although we may have known each other some, they haven't worked for me, haven't worked with me. So they're trying to learn, well, what does Coach Huff like? What is his demeanor in certain situations like this? How does he roll in these situations? We had at Carolina late in the game, actually last possession, it's 10 seconds left, and we're down 3. And James, my assistant, goes, "You want to call a timeout here once we cross half?" And I said, "No, we kind of worked on it. Let's see how they play through it. We know what play we're going to call." And we got a shot. Maybe could have got a better shot than we got, but we got a shot. And so those little things like that, we're still learning, each other, in practice when to really hone in and really emphasize what we're trying to do, like in a stern kind of way, or when to back off. Even learning the guys, I think I've probably been around them a little bit more just with the talks that we had even before we got on campus. So, James and Coach O just learning those guys, or who you can push, what buttons you can push with them. It's a learning experience for everyone. That, people discredit little things like we talked about getting to campus in August and you've been able to spend time with them, but little things like team gatherings. You can't have a team gathering because of COVID. Like we can't have like a fun time when you go bowling or you go to the movies as a team because it just won't happen right now.
No, watching the Super Bowl and having the food and things like that help bring the team together. I'm
going to take it even further. Of all the road games we have, people don't even take a look at this. We can't go into a restaurant and sit together and eat that pregame meal.
Wow. It's certainly a different dynamic, right? COVID has kind of turned this whole season on its head, right? Not only the imbalance of schedule between home games and away games and the practice time, it's really turned everything kind of upside down. But as we all kind of battle through this, I really do. I feel like the team is, from what I've seen, the team is fighting. They're coming together, looking good. You guys are also figuring out, I think, some things rotation-wise and which guys are playing well together. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Definitely, man. I think we switched some things up with who's been playing well, and one of those things has been Joel Davis. We've inserted him into the starting lineup, number 20 from Chicago, and he's been a major factor for us the last two games in which he started. He just brings a physical presence. He knows how to finish around the rim, and he's just savvy. He's like a savvy vet out there. He's really helped us and calmed us along in a lot of those situations. And then some of the things that we've been able to get off the bench, by now, at least for the last two games, bringing Stat off the bench gives us firepower coming off the bench, along with him and Malik. Those are two guys who can really score the basketball and light it up. You talk about Malik when we played Talladega, scored about 23, I think. Stat, when we played Carolina, had like 16. Malik had like 15. So guys like that coming off the bench, being able to give you scoring punch off the bench. And you add that to Terrell Wyndham, who, last game he knocks down 5 threes. The kid can really shoot the basketball, and he can shoot it in bunches and really make buckets. So I think those little kind of things are really helping us along with, understanding that, one of our freshmen is a defensive stopper. Ezekiel Williamson-Bay is a defensive stopper.
Love Zeke.
And he's kind of taking that role and understands that, and he's coming in and he's gonna guard the hell out somebody.
Hey, that's great. Which brings us to the next thing that I do want to make sure that we touch is the defensive side of the floor. Obviously, I've seen a lot of possessions where you guys play really good defense, at least above average defense, and then we have a issue sometimes with closing out a great defensive possession with a rebound. How do we continue to get better? I know in a lot of these situations we've been undersized, we've been missing guys, but how do we continue to get better on the defensive end and get better rebounding the basketball?
I think you've seen a progression in that. I think we struggled with it mightily early on when we were missing guys. And then you saw us get better at Edward Waters. You saw us get better at Allen. You've even seen us win the rebounding battle in some of those situations. And that's been the real key, is that they're starting to understand what it means to box somebody out and finish the possession. And that's why you've seen, our defense get better. We only give up 64 versus Allen. We only give up 66 versus Edward Waters. We only give up, limited points. We're not letting teams score 70 plus, So those things have really changed and helped us along the way, securing that rebound.
And when we talk about, as you continue to improve in those two areas, we're talking about the two games that you mentioned, two games that we're right there, right? With being able to win. And with that Edwards Water game, the kid he's making shots that, come on, man. Tip the hat to a great player. But a lot of those shots were highly contested shots.
So the difference is, and we've learned this, is we've got to be there on the catch. We've got to be more physical when you get to guys like that who really want to catch and shoot it. So little things that we've learned to pick up on during the season, having games like that. Normally you get that early season, November, to kind of to make that happen.
Right.
But when we get back in January, you're ready to go. We're getting there right now as we move into February with these games.
Awesome. How are the guys feeling spirits wise? Did they? I know we can't get together as a team, but are they congregating, kind of in small groups? Did they get a chance to watch the football game? And
as much as possible, they do. As much as the school allows, we still have some COVID protocols as far as them being on campus, how many can congregate together. But they spend time, after we had one weekend free, we didn't have a game. And the guys took some time. It was one of our players' birthdays, and they decided to go together off campus a little bit. to try to spend time together in the way they could. And they had a good time, man. I think that was something they really needed to. And it was a mixture, like we talked about. It was the whole team coming together and really enjoying themselves and trying to enjoy this time that they had together.
That's good. It's extremely important. I don't think we talk enough about that with, as we kind of wrap up the COVID part of the conversation and rehashing the games, is that these guys are playing, even when we do get to play, right? They're still playing in a different type of environment because there are no fans.
Well, and here's the crazy part, Mondre, is that there's so different protocols for each state you go in. Like here, we're not allowing anybody to come to our games. But we've been places, even in South Carolina, where there were 200, 300 people in the stands. And we were kind of like, wow, okay.
Wow.
Then other places, obviously like Dalton State, where there were about 10 people in the stands.
Right.
So you get a difference of everywhere you go. We've been places where we've had to, even though we test here on campus, we've been to some places where once we got there, we had to test again before we could even play. So all these protocols are in place, to try to keep us safe, to try to make sure we're playing. And as you see, whether you're talking about NBA, whether you're talking about NFL, whether you're talking about college basketball, it's a work in progress, man. There are people having to postpone and cancel games every night.
Absolutely. We're definitely seeing it back here in Georgia. As you're probably aware, the high school season here in Georgia kind of suffering through those. You're seeing region tournaments get canceled and decisions about, hey, I know we normally work our region schedule this way, but we're going to take just the top 6 teams or whatever we're going to do for the region. It's all kind of region by region. Even then, it's different from high school basketball. You've seen it in college, like you mentioned, all over, and even in the NBA.
Right.
To touch on the NBA really quick, there's been some conversation about whether or not the NBA should have the AllStar Game. You're hearing NBA players talk about that. Do you have any thoughts on if there should be AllStar Games at any level in basketball? Should we be having AllStar Games, or should we just focus on regular season and trying to get a champion?
I'll stick with the NBA because that's the one that has a lot of controversy, because NFL didn't have their Pro Bowl. They said no to that. But if we talk about the NBA, we got to think these guys were in a bubble longer than they were supposed to be. And we're talking about them having a 72-game season. And before that, they said that we weren't having an All-Star game. Now to come back and say we're having one in the midst of everything going on, I can see why it's a slap in the face. It's not. I mean, as much as a fan wants to see all those guys together, LeBron, KDs, and Stephs, and Giannis, and the list goes on and on. Yeah, we want to see all those guys being able to play together. But this year just isn't the year to do that, I don't think. We're lucky enough that they're able to play it outside of bubble. And hopefully those times they're playing, nobody's in COVID protocol. I think you just got to stick with that. I mean, I'm an Atlanta guy now, and they talk about it going to Atlanta, but that ain't the All-Star Game. You can't even go ahead and enjoy the festivities now.
Certainly not the All-Star Game that we remember.
Right.
I feel the same way. I think we're starting to get to the point where you're seeing, even in NBA arenas, like you mentioned, we're starting to see fans in the arena. Some of those interactions with fans have been choppy. Speaking of games in Atlanta, choppy at times, but we're seeing it happen, right? I am all for let's slowly continue to work ourselves back to a place of normality, and let's not try our luck, for lack of a better phrase. Let's not push it. I am much more invested in trying to determine a true champion. And not that the bubble didn't determine that. I totally believe the Lakers won a championship. There will be no asterisks in front of their championship to me. But I think that should be the work of the NBA, is to give us a great regular season, get us into the playoffs, and give us a champion. While we're talking about the playoffs and tournaments and trying to get a champion, have you guys heard any changes? Will there be any adjustments to the NCAA tournament at all? Or are we still full steam ahead?
Well, they have knocked it down from the 64 to 48. because of some NAIA teams that aren't playing this year.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it's still a goal. I think it's a work in progress to see how we get to that point, even inside our conference, as we move to that. Because unfortunately, I do know in the swimming and diving part in the NAIA, they had to cancel that championship. And it wasn't just so much because of COVID. They had to cancel because of venue because of COVID. And that played a major impact. But right now, we're still a goal. Right now they had even dropped the number of how many games you had to play to 10, just to make sure if you played 10 games, you had the opportunity to get in, to have the opportunity to play. And I think that helped everybody, because you might have scheduled 20, even in the shortened season, and you got, 10 cancellations due to COVID for whatever reason. So NAIA is trying to work with it and try to make sure that we still have a tournament.
I just saw Rick Pitino post on Twitter the other day that they hadn't played a game at Iona since December.
Yeah.
When you mentioned 10 cancellations, they've had about that many between postponements and cancellations at the for the University of Iona. So
every day, any college coach will tell you, any day you're probably getting hit up or there's some group message. Do you know anybody that's looking to play at any games? I mean, you got people that are scheduled. I think Georgia Tech was scheduled to play somebody that got postponed, or Georgia maybe. I think it was Georgia. They were scheduled to play somebody on Tuesday, and it flipped because somebody else couldn't play, but the other team that was supposed to play Tennessee, so they said Tennessee and Georgia are going to play on Wednesday. Today, I think it is. So, it's just we're just in that time where you got to be flexible. And for us as college coaches, that's hard now. I don't think people understand how much time we prepare to go to scout and be ready for this team, and now you got to flip on the dime and get your team ready. It's tough. And I think that's another reason why you've seen a lot of teams at various levels struggle, because there's no continuity. And we as coaches are used to continuity, players included.
For sure. And that's something that I'm sure even your guys are having to get used to, of not only being able to flip and do scouts as the schedule may move, but also understanding how you want the scouts done.
Right.
And getting used to that as well. One more thing that I wanted to make sure that we asked. I believe that Georgia Southern, Georgia State is today.
Yeah.
You've been a part of that, being a coach at Georgia Southern previously, but also have great relationships at Georgia State. Are you picking a winner tonight?
I will say this. Georgia State, unfortunately, is coming off of a COVID protocol where they were down 14 years, and they're still missing some guys, even some coaches. I think that could play an impact in this game. I agree. And I will say this: there's a Coach Berg at Georgia Southern. He was able to get that kid from Dutchtown, Cam Bryant. He's a freshman that's been playing pretty well for Georgia Southern. I think he can have an impact in the game. But I'll say this: if Kane Williams is ready to play, you better be ready, Georgia Southern, because he plays hard for Georgia State, really, really hard. Their guard play is really good at Georgia State.
Two great teams, a incredible rivalry.
Which won't be the same now, which will not those games were so electric and packed out at both places, because you got two schools who hate each other now. They won't even say the other one's name.
A lot of people don't understand, right?
It's a real rivalry. It ain't just basketball, it's every sport they play. It's a real rivalry.
So I'm going to ask this, Huff, as we talk about those rivalries, how do we develop the Battle of Denmark to become one of those type of rivalries, just like we see with the same type of pageantry and kind of electricity in the air as we see with Georgia State, Georgia Southern?
I think with the two hires that they have over there, Coach Payne, who he and I go back, him being former coach at Mississippi Valley when I was at Alcorn, getting a guy like that to take over that program at Denmark Tech, and then getting an Atlanta guy like Douglas Bird to come be his assistant, I think that right there starts it. And then once we get out of COVID and we really get going with how they're going to recruit and how we're going to recruit, I think that thing can blossom because people don't understand. Last Saturday was their homecoming, and through COVID, and they couldn't really come inside. They were barbecuing outside like it was festivities everywhere. It was a good barbecue. Right. They even gave me some after the game because they said we still everybody's still in Denmark now. So
good stuff. Good stuff. I think it would be great for Denmark to have that become a great rivalry. See how much basketball and just athletics is appreciated in the area overall. So I think it's a great thing. Another opportunity for alumni to come back once COVID is over, come back and support or be a part of something special.
And I want to be the first to kind of announce, we're still working through it, but one of the big things that Coach Bird and Coach Payne and I are trying to work with is to really get people to understand that basketball is important down here. And so we're trying to have team play dates, team high school play dates down here during the month of June. Obviously, there are a lot of schools that are around us, but we want to get some schools from Atlanta. We want to get some schools, from the Greenville area of South Carolina to come on in and let's have we've got 3 gyms in 5 minutes of proximity. Our gym, Denmark Tech, and Denmark High School. And so I think that could be a great couple of days, or however we're going to do it, a basketball, where that's another thing that kind of brings that excitement out about basketball here in Denmark. And that's something that we have talked about as a whole, about getting that thing going.
I think that would be awesome. A lot of people don't understand that June environment now for high school basketball. I think it was something that you being a part of what we did here in Georgia, it churned out a level of competition that you don't often see with high school basketball in June, which is great for the casual fan like myself. But for you guys as coaches, what that also created, and I'll allow you to speak to it, is a tremendous recruiting opportunity during that live period as well. You want to touch on that just a little bit?
Definitely. That's one of the things, what we've learned, and I don't want to speak for Coach Bird, but I know we've talked about it, and Coach Payne, is that, there are a lot of kids here in South Carolina that can go play for Clemson and South Carolina and College of Charleston. I can go down the list. There are also a bunch of kids that fall under that gap of being a Division I kid that sometimes get left and nobody knows where they are. So having that team camp, I've told anybody, I want to run this program like it's a Division I program. I don't care what letters come in front of our school as far as our affiliation. And you do that by having a team camp. You do that by getting these kids on campus, even if it's just to come to the gym and say, man, I never knew about Voorhees. I never knew about Denmark Tech. This is awesome to get us over here to play games, to get us the opportunity, because if there are any kids or parents watching, it's not just about the school that's recruiting you. It could be about another coach who sees your son and daughter, if somebody's listening, who can tell another coach, you need to go check this kid out.
100%. And those relationships within the coaching community are so tight-knit.
Yes.
That it's one of the best recommendations as a player that you can ever get is another coach watching you play and making that phone call for you to say, hey, I can't take this kid, but this is a kid that I think fits with you.
I tell anybody this story. I don't mean to get off Voorhees, but I have to tell this story. Obviously, people know about the connection and relationship Coach CY, assistant at Florida State, and I have, because he recruited Malik Beasley for me when I was at St. Francis. But once you get that relationship, and we knew each other before there, but once you build that relationship, I have then went on to Alcorn State. And he calls me one day, and you know how CY goes, Chief, I got something for you. I got you a gorilla. Like, what's up? And he told me about a kid in Tallahassee that was under-recruited. He said, he's not my level, but I know he's better than your level, but you can get him because nobody's on him. And that kid ended up being Maurice Howard, who's the all-time leading three-point shooter in Alcorn State history.
Wow. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot more than people think. And that's going to be an awesome experience for all the kids.
And let's take that relationship even further. So he played at Rickards High School, right? So when I was at Duluth High School, we went down and we played Rickards in Tallahassee during the Thanksgiving tournament. Know the coach pretty well down there. Obviously, I get the job here. Like I said, Coach Mitchell did a great job. He actually recruited a kid from Rickards, Zach White, who won a state championship down there last year, who's one of our freshmen. So that thing keeps going on. Those relationships keep going.
Keep going and keep building. I think that's an amazing opportunity that kids are going to get all over the state of South Carolina. We have on my other show, we've talked to Mike Alexander a lot from Team South Carolina that helps with Legacy Early College. He kind of talked about that South Carolina sometimes when it comes to basketball is an underserved kind of community. There's a lot more talent in South Carolina that people may not know of. So giving those guys an opportunity to also get some bump against guys from other states on a platform that matters is going to be very big. So I hope the entire community in South Carolina really buys in and we get some surrounding schools as well.
That's part of my job. I mean, as much as I talk about us not being able to do things until January, but especially from November until January, it allowed me a lot of time to get out, to go to Dorman High School, to go see Legacy Charter, to go see Gray Collegiate Academy, to go to Goose Creek down in Charleston, to go see Bamberg, to go see Modesto, to go see Wade Hampton, see Denmark Ola. Like I'm learning these schools just like I knew those Georgia schools off the top of my mind, Andre, and getting to watch practices or getting to watch games of Allendale High School, to get to watch games of all these schools. That helps us. That helps these kids too.
For sure.
Because now they know, man, Voorhees is out. They've watched us. I hate to say it like this, but there may be a kid out there that didn't even know Voorhees was a real school.
For sure. It happens. It happens a lot more than people think too, because a lot of times we don't understand how small of a viewport sometimes a kid may have.
Correct.
That's playing. Kids only pay attention to the top 10 kids in their class. They don't really pay attention to, anything outside of the top 10 sometimes, or what schools those kids are going to. And they certainly don't pay attention a lot of times to anything outside of D1. We understand how much education we've had to do for kids at that level to say, oh no, yeah, you could go NAIA and still go to school for free and still go play professionally after you're done. There's a lot. It's an education standpoint.
Our kid here last year, I don't want to mess his name up. It's on the tip of my tongue, but he's playing overseas right now. So credit to that kid and credit to Coach Mitchell for bringing him in. Like we talked about, we've got a guy here that was the first person to wear number 23 in Chicago Bulls history that came right here from Voorhees.
From Voorhees, yeah.
I was reading the other day, and it's not NAIA, but there's a Division III player who happened to transfer up to a Division I school, and he is balling out, like averaging double figures and everything. So I think people need to understand it's not about level, because there are kids that can play at every level. I mean, there are kids that we've seen this year, and I go, man, that kid's doggone good. But I can talk about the Wiggins kid from Dalton State. I can talk about multiple from Talladega. I can talk about number 1 from Edward Waters and number 0. I can keep going down the list. Number 25 for Allen, who's a Georgia kid, Malik. Like, there are a lot of kids out here that can play.
That look like D1 kids.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was talking to another NAIA coach, and a lot of times it comes down to the fact of it could be grades. It could be under-recruited. Yeah. It could be that they went somewhere else, and for whatever reason it did not work, and they came to an NAIA school. There are a lot of factors of why they're here, but kids have to understand, especially high school kids, when you are thinking, well, I can just go play NAIA or I can just go play JUCO, you better realize what you're walking into now. There's some dogs out here.
These guys are messing around. You get lined up against that Levine, and he's giving you 30.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not careful. Coach, if you set up by chance Dorman versus Norcross, please call me. I'll be on my way. Okay.
I do know one thing, because this guy will always come to find different challenges. It was like that, whatever. But if I tell George Washington that we're doing this, I guarantee you Pepperbrook will be on that bus down here.
He will be on the way for sure. Man, George has got amazing. I know we can't talk about specific kids. Man, watching those guys play is incredible. I hope he gets his state championship this year. Coach, as we march through the season, we talked about how difficult it is sometimes to play on the road. But there was something that was posted that I want to bring up because this is so important, and I definitely want you to touch on it here. Let's talk about this. I thought this was awesome.
Man, hard work is the price of admission in order to become great. I think sometimes we look at the end result. We look at, how great a Kobe or how great a LeBron or Michael Jordan or how great teams are. And we don't realize how much hard work was put in for individuals or teams to become great. And so I think at the bottom of that, it says stack small wins. And I think the biggest thing we want to have in our program is to stack those small wins of hard work so we can become great. And that means those 6 a.m. practices. That means when you're walking out of the gym and you're dead tired. That means doing things that you normally don't want to do, but you have to do to be better. Coming in and putting up shots when you don't want to. Coming into the weight room when you don't want to. Winning that sprint. We compete in everything that we do in practice. These guys hate these weighted green jump ropes that we have because they know if they lose 3-on-2, 2-on-1, they know if they lose Texas 1-2-1, they know if they lose shell drill, whatever the case may be, if they lose, they're going to go hit those jump ropes.
Yeah.
They know if they don't sprint to a spot, Coach O's going to have them doing push-ups. So it's different things that we talk about, that hard work. And we've got to understand, a lot of times, everybody talks about trusting the process. But we say it as like a cliche. But trusting the process doesn't mean that being great is going to be automatic just because you're working hard. Like we are working excuse my language, we're working our ass off, Mondre. We truly are. And we haven't seen the results that we wanted right now. Mm-hmm. But I also know they're going to come. And so we have to continue to understand just because they haven't come doesn't mean we stop working hard. Doesn't mean we slack off and don't pay attention to detail. Because that, again, stack small wins. Those things will matter.
100%. Building that momentum until it becomes almost like an avalanche, that it takes over everything, and you can ride that motion all the way into the tournament and deep into the tournament as well.
And when you stack those small wins and you have that hard work so you can become great, I've seen that thing flip now, Mondre.
Yes.
You weren't getting over the top early. And next thing you know, you're looking at a team like, man, where did they come from? Shoot, I've been a part of that. You know that. I've been a part of a team like that.
100%. One of the things that I see even too with your schedule, right? You only got to get hot once.
Yeah.
Once you get it right, and that light switch, like we always talk about with kids, once that light switch comes on, you run off 4 or 5 wins in a row, and
all it takes.
It's a totally different story. Especially when now once you get to the back half of your schedule, you get Talladega at home, you get Allen at home, you get Carolina at home. Those are important games that can really give you guys a great position as you come down the back stretch of the season.
All about finding that those small wins, stacking those small wins to create momentum. And if we can create the momentum, I think that we started on this past Saturday, and I think we'll be right where we want to be coming down the stretch.
100%. Let's take a little bit. We've got our next game coming up against Middle Georgia State. Let's preview that game a little bit. What are some things that don't want to give the game plan away, but what are some things that we want to accomplish?
Well, I think anybody that knows and has watched Middle Georgia State play, if we don't come ready for a battle, they're going to punch us in the mouth and we're going to be in trouble. I'm going to tell you that right now. We better bring our boxing gloves. And I don't mean that like fight. I mean like we got to be ready to go to war.
Yes.
Because that's what it's going to be in their gym. Going down there, Coach Mo does a great job. He always has. Obviously, being a Georgia guy, I know a little bit more about their program. They go get some South Georgia guys who have chips on their shoulder, who are trying to prove a point to everybody, and everybody on their team can shoot the rock. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle going down there to try to walk out with a win. They've upset the number 7 ranked team in NAIA once this year in Faulkner and played them close. Other times than that, I think they split with Dalton State. One time they beat Dalton State, other time Dalton State beat them. They're in a great conference. So it's going to be definitely a challenge for us, but we're going to be up for the challenge. We've been working hard. But like I said, it's going to start with, are we ready to battle? Are we ready to compete and match them and exceed the energy that they're going to have?
For sure. Physical contest will be certain of it, as a lot of these contests are. Let's talk about one thing that has been pretty consistent. I think you knew very early on that your team could really shoot the ball.
Yep.
And you've given them the confidence and the ability to take those shots. How important has the 3-point shooting been as a part of your strategy game in game out?
It's been really huge about how we want to play as part of we want to put pressure on the defense using that 3-point line. So we've got guys that can really make shots. I think we went through one stretch, and I don't want to blame it on this, but when you're going 5 games in 10 days, we had a little stretch where we didn't. That was shot. I remember one of my college coaching buddies had watched the game. He said, "Man, y'all miss shots that y'all normally make." And that could have been how much. I think we logged over 40 hours of bus time. That's just on a bus. But you look at it, and we hit 15 threes Saturday, and we can really shoot the ball. Our bigs can shoot the ball, and that's the kind of thing that we like. That's the kind of thing that we recruit here. Length, athleticism, basketball IQ, and shooting ability, and toughness. Those are things that we recruit. So that shooting is very big for us, and I think that allows us. It makes it hard for people to play us. And you saw it when we played Dalton State, because now it stretches that defense where you can't give the same help that you normally would if you got that guy out there who can make that shot, especially 1 through 4. And then if you get a 5-man who can do it, it really opens it up.
Definitely. It creates those driving opportunities, those driving lanes kind of open up. You guys have been able to do a good job of finding those. Anything that you feel like is still kind of a work in progress? I'm sure as everything is, but anything that you're specifically working on to say, hey, listen, this is the next obstacle that we've got to get over to get to where we're going?
I probably have 2. I think we've got to stop. We're having too many unforced turnovers where guys are maybe trying to do a little too much. So when we cut our turnover numbers down, we played Carolina. I'm looking at the stats right now, and we only had 10 turnovers. And then when we played Denmark Tech, we only had 13. So that's down from when we were having 18 or 20, which is giving the other team more possessions. And we want to have more possessions than the other team. Instead of them having more possession than us. So if we can cut down on our turnovers, as we did the past 2 games, that's still a work in progress. And our execution down the stretch. Who do we need to take the shot? What kind of shot do we want, and where do we want it? I think that's the next evolution for us in closing out games. And part of that falls on me, making sure we do a better job of having situational stuff. We talk about only having 28 practices, but Coach O comes up to me today and says, "Coach, I think maybe we just go the last 5 minutes of every practice and we just do situations, of whatever the varying situation is." And those are things that I always have at the bottom of my practice plan. But when you've only had 28 practices, you're trying to get so much other things done that situations, you're not spending enough time on. So like I said, it falls on me, but it's those are 2 things we got to get better at: execution late game in situations, and not turning the ball over.
As you know, AAU season is kicking off, and I can tell you that we, as AAU coaches, we all agree. When you look at that practice plan and you don't get much time with your kids, it's kind of hard to even get through the entire game plan from practice to practice because there's so much teaching that needs to be done sometimes. Coach, while we're touching on that, talk a little bit about how big it's been to have some of the guys returning that were in the program back and helping lead the team through.
Man, I can't say enough about a Staten Levine or a Willie Ferguson or a Bryce Williams or Terrell Wyndham or Taiwan Bowie, Jarvis Martin. And I'm gonna stick with Jarvis right now. for some different circumstances, Jarvis hasn't been able to play this year. Been able to practice, but hasn't been able to play. He's been really instrumental in things he says and leading our guys during games, during practices, that does not go unnoticed from myself or our coaching staff. But those guys, those 6 returners, have been huge about the competition. Like, I didn't have to come in and create this competition that you're supposed to have in practice. Yeah, Coach Mitchell had that thing going now. So them guys making sure guys who are coming in, hey, we go hard now. We go compete. And we may talk a little junk to you in practice once we competing, but that's how we do. Once the practice is over, we boys again. So I think those guys have been really instrumental in building this new culture that we're having here at Voorhees.
Every time Taiwan Boy shoots the ball, I put my hands up like this. He may not know that I'm doing that at home, but I'm doing that and I'm screaming that was good every time he pulls up. Just in case he's watching. I think we got a pretty good wrap up of how things are going, Coach. Anything kind of top of mind that we want to make sure that we put out there? Any news that we need to give to the alumni or anyone else?
After the season, alumni, get ready. You're probably gonna get blasted by Ms. Johnson and myself with things that we're trying to improve upon here. I don't want to. I guess I can let the cat out the bag, but as soon as the season's over, you're gonna see something brand new in our gym with a scoreboard that really accentuates what we're trying to do and change. And we want to be a D1 program, men and women's basketball here at Voorhees. So that new scoreboard is going to be like the kind you see at a Georgia State, or you see at a College of Charleston, or you see at a Clemson game that, not the video board now. We ain't got there yet, Mondre, but where you see the player's number and you see the fouls and you see the points. Like that's huge for us. That's changing the environment of what we're trying to have. So when we do get back to some sense of normalcy, and hopefully we get homecoming next year, that thing can be rocking.
I love it. Hey, Coach, I'm going to start using that, man. Stack small wins. Stack small wins.
And it's not just in basketball. So I try to use it in everyday life, man. How do you stack small wins and everything that you're doing? Because we know it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we got to stack small wins in everything that we're doing.
100%. New scoreboard before you know it. Hey, listen, we changed new seating. We've got new. It's a whole new gym.
Hey, let's get it.
That's how everything that I've ever seen be built. You and I have had this conversation off air. I'm a diehard Louisville Cardinal fan.
Right. But
one thing about not to shift it off of Voorhees, but just saying that I've seen a school built before.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's a little more of a reality for me than it is for a lot of people, because people may not understand that U of L, University of Louisville, was maybe a semester away from doing away with football altogether. We played our basketball games. Our national championship winning basketball team played their basketball games in the same place where they had the Kentucky State Fair. So it always smelled like animals.
Yeah.
Right? Winning a national championship, but your gym always smelled like animals because of where the location where it was. So I've seen it go from that to being an arena downtown playing in the ACC. And it didn't take as much time as people think that it would take. When you're building a program and you're doing it the right way, I just want to encourage the alumni to say, yes, you can do it. It can be done. I've seen it. And the way that you're kind of guiding people through it is 100% the right way. It's, hey, lock in, engage, and before you know it, you're winning and it's drawing other things to the program and you're there.
It's all about, this shirt was really special when we wanted to do it, but be the change. We want to be the change as guys, not only on the court, but off the court. But we also want to be the change in how we evolve this community, how we involve the community and evolve the community in terms of basketball. And then it goes back to the saying and our mantra of our school by our president: begin, believe, become. I mean, it's got to begin somewhere. While you stack those small wins, you got to believe it, even though those small wins may seem slow as you're getting there. And the next thing you know, you become exactly what you wanted to become.
For sure. Coach, we definitely appreciate the time. We're still enjoying the ride. I love watching these guys play. I love watching them fight. They're going at it every game. They're going at it, and you can see the amount of learning and growth in the team from game to game. So we're still enjoying the ride, Coach. We understand what we're building for, what we're building to.
I'm going to enjoy that ride with some more wins, though, Bundre.
Hey, listen, it's coming. I feel like it's coming, Coach. We've been too close too many times.
Right.
We've been one possession, multiple games. So it's gonna go our way. I'm certain of it. So let's go out here and get one for sure against Middle Georgia State. I know it's gonna be a hard fought game, but definitely if we're gonna get one, that's a great one to go get, Coach.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Appreciate the time, Coach. That's our show for today. It's been real. This is Voorhees Tiger Vision, and we are out.